what are you supposed to do with these 16-team conferences, right? With these 18-team conferences. We got a bunch of dudes that just don't understand. You're supposed to hate them. Why? We ain't played them in like 30 years. Don't matter, 20 years, Houston. But that's the point, right? Now I'm going to have to watch Cal play North Carolina in football.
This is the one, and I don't think people are talking about this nearly enough. Cal and Stanford are going to be terrible. I think I don't know how SMU is going to work this out, but I'm just asking, why in the world, if I had the option to go in to play anywhere else, would I go play somewhere where I know we're going to be taking all of these crazy road trips? Like, I just don't see how they can stay competitive and of course with Stanford, where they're not going to have the NIL machine to get this done. And I don't feel like Cal has got the booster class that cares enough about this either. How they're going to have to legitimately at some point in the next 20 years think about moving down to 1AA, because I think they're going to be laughing stocks playing in the ACC.
All right, so number one, that whole we offer 40 dudes at Stanford thing, that ain't gonna float. That ain't float. You know why it ain't gonna float? Because Florida State wanted more than you. Now they want out, but they wanted more than you. Clemson wanted more than you, right? North Carolina is a better football program than Cal and Stanford right now, and I'm still trying to wrap my head around that, right? Because that's not supposed to be what this is, right? And if you were University of Virginia, you chomping at the bit to go beat up on Stanford, because you know that's all you there to do. We are Thomas Jefferson University. We're gonna stomp out this Ivy League on the West Coast, but they weren't even competitive. Not really. I just take that back. Let me step back. They have not been competitive the last 5 years,
and it's been bad. Like, it's been like, when you say not competitive, they've been bad. Like Shaw, the early run of the Shaw era is, I think we say without question, the greatest period in the history of Stanford football. Like it continued after Andrew Luck. You can't just point it there. They did an amazing job recruiting there. And under the old paradigm, you could do all right recruiting there because you're like, hey, man, you're going to get to go to Stanford, right? And we can tell you what all these things. So you get kids that wanted to go to Stanford in the first place. And then you could get them in. It's like you can get a Christian McCaffrey, for example, right? Like they had a bunch of those guys. They were getting 5-star quarterbacks. You'll always be able to get an offensive line because they tend to be a little bit geekier. So you could get somebody to decide to go there, go Northwestern, like all those schools. You can pull that off and get like first-round caliber talent. You can coach them up. You can teach them up. You can do all that. But now you're going to have to take those smart kids and try to explain to them why flying 3,000 miles every other week is what they should do. And that's just not happening.
I'm familiar. Let me not speak for you. I'm familiar with how I think you feel about Notre Dame.
Yes.
But the thing that bothers me about the ACC is that they let this open marriage stay. Okay? Mm-hmm. Given what Notre Dame is about, given how Notre Dame wants to move, given what Notre Dame is going to mean for the ACC and how they're going to be propping up all their other institutions around that football property, how are we supposed to deal with Notre Dame independence? I'm gonna go do my own thing, but when it's time to go get my money, I'm gonna come see you in this new ACC where you're talking about, you got to make these trips, but Notre Dame ain't gonna try to make them trips. Notre Dame wants to travel to where Notre Dame is.
Yeah, and I think Notre Dame is actually the school that's best equipped for this new ACC world order because they're kind of in the middle, right? Like Notre Dame and Louisville. And by the way, there's going to be some real class clashes with Stanford going to visit some of these schools like Louisville, Clemson, Florida State, North Carolina State, even Virginia Tech. It's going to be very interesting seeing some of the interactions amongst the peoples at some of these games. But you're right. At some point, Notre Dame's going to have to join. They're going to have to at some point.
Yeah, they have to. But you also, you made a point there that I kind of want to touch on. I got Palo Alto going to Blacksburg.
Yes.
All right, now I would like to see it. I would like to see it. You know what I mean? Like it's like when people tell me Russell Wilson is from Richmond, I'm like, you saying that like it's Tidewater. It's not.
It's not.
It's not. But also, all right, am I foolish to believe that Stanford, Cal might go up to what used to be Tidewater and try to go get dudes? Because this is actually something you put me on with, right? Which is Tidewater be putting out guys for the better part of 30 years, but It doesn't feel that way in the last 10.
It doesn't. And they don't, and it's the recruiting no man's land. It's not really close to anything. Like now that there are more of these Virginia FBS schools, I don't know who wins this contest anymore. But for the longest, the closest 1A school was East Carolina. East Carolina got Michael Vick on campus for a visit. Like that's what's going on over there. It's always no man's land. When North Carolina is up, they are typically recruiting the Tidewater. The previous Mac Brown era, that's what they were doing. When Virginia Tech was up, they were recruiting in the Tidewater. When they hired Mike London in Virginia, it's because he was from Hampton, Virginia, and they thought that he could get them in there. Can Stanford get guys there that they can get in? Like, I don't know how hard it is to get guys into Cal, but I know it ain't easy to get them into Stanford. Like, can they get those guys?
I think you would have to want it to win in football. And I ain't seen Stanford.
Yeah, and do they want it, right? Because Virginia, look, the University of Virginia, they find ways to get those boys in. They be down there at Hargrave and all them other schools. Like, they'll get them in, right? Stanford hasn't made that same decision. And the truth is, they're going to have to decide, do they feel like playing college football?
And to your point, they might decide that's just not who they want to be. They might want to be like the University of San Diego, right? Just own the Pioneer League, don't give no scholarships, go do what you do, try to win whatever that cup is that they win for having swimming teams that are good and whatnot, but also high academic standards. I don't care, right? The last time I thought about Stanford was actually Tara Vanderwegen. She retired. And then I was like, oh, they still got that going on over there, huh? Okay, Stanford, I see y'all in the ACC. All right, before I get out of here, it's one thing that I do want to get your perspective on, particularly at this moment. I'm going to go ahead and put everybody on to a piece that Bo wrote in Vanity Fair, right? Under the leadership of one Ta-Nehisi Coates, who I ain't done that.
Crazy, right?
Look. What are you saying? What are you saying?
That's crazy, right? That's crazy, right?
I rarely show my envy or my jealousy, but dog, like I looked at that and I said, damn. And you got to write about a topic that is still very, look, flexing on me. Look at that.
It is one of several copies I have here stacked up at the desk.
Dog, man. All right. So that, right? But what you're writing about is basically this moment that we're having right now. Right? We're talking about player empowerment, player advancement, player movement is how I come to think about it. And we are recording this show on the first day of what is spring transfer portal period, which is a term that nobody would have understood 7 years ago, right? Knowing what this new Big Ten, this new SEC, ACC, Big 12 are going to be, the disillusion of the Pac-12, which I thought would have been, we would have never thought about that 10 years ago. Right? It's conference champions, yada, yada, yada. Conference Jackie Robinson, conference Mike Garrett. Mike Garrett would say that, not me. But
who else? Who else won a Heisman Trophy at USC? Who else?
Charles White?
Yeah. Him too. I feel like there was one in the middle.
Oh yeah. What is it? Orenthal James.
You know what I'm saying? It happens.
Yes, I do. Yes, but. What a time. Of all things to get in trouble for, you took back what was already yours.
Yes.
That's the thing we decided to.
Yes. I was at an interracial wedding this weekend, and I just wanted to jump in and be like, hey, 2,000 yards, huh? And just see what happened and walk away.
The Buffalo Bills finest.
Yeah, like, wow, the naked gun. That was funny, wasn't it?
All right, well, I'm in Oklahoma. You know this. So I'm gonna trot that one out, and we're gonna see how I go. How about that? We'll see how I go. I'll report back.
Good luck.
If you like what you've seen, consider subscribing to the #1 college football show on YouTube, the Fox Sports app, or wherever you get your podcast.